Hello everyone, I am Allison Gonzalez. I'm a trainer here at Pragmatic and welcome to the August 2022 Power BI update. So they pushed this one out earlier this month compared to normal. Normally it's around like the 15th, 16th of the month, but this one went out around the 7th. So a little bit earlier than normal. So if you haven't even yet updated to July and you don't have auto updates on, make sure you go back and watch our July 2022 update video so you can see what changed last month. And now let's get into what they've updated this month. We're going to go over 5 things. Of course, there's always more, always have a lot changing every single month. We're going to go over 5 things that the BI team has put in place this month. So let's get into it. All right, first up, conditional formatting for data labels has been updated. When they first rolled this out last year, it was more based on a full aggregate of the field across the whole visual rather than each data point, which then, of course, caused all the data labels in the visual to come out to be the same color. So they've updated this month, so now we are able to have it set across the entire visual. And we can also have it on different lines as well. This example shows data labels for sales from this year colored blue if the sale grew above a certain threshold over last year, and then red if they didn't. So this is one that I will demo out for you in a bit in Power BI so you can see how you can add, change, and modify it inside of the Power BI desktop. Next up is there is new select sensitivity label dialog. So for any tenants, if you are in one that requires sensitivity labels on your reports, you are now able to set the sensitivity label directly from the save flow. Previously, that dialog would be a message redirecting the user to find and use the ribbon dropdown instead. So a little bit of change of behavior for this. So if you're using those sensitivity labels, just pay attention and realize that's a bit changed, a bit adjusted. Now the metric visual. So this is now available in desktop officially. This visual is really helpful. It gives a huge level of flexibility in integrating metrics into your reports. So you can include individual metrics inside an entire scorecard and create report pages showcasing metrics alongside other visuals in the context of the rest of that report data. You can also create new metrics or add a metric from an existing scorecard as a visual in the report. Additionally, you can create a metric by either entering values or connecting to data in reports you have access to. So we'll connect you into the service. You can pick all of the reports you have access to and all of those data sets, connect into that data set, or you can just manually enter in the value that you want to have as you go through it, just dependent upon what you're looking to do with that metric, how you're planning on using it, and what data you have access to. You're able to view the notes, perform check-ins, set up rules on this metric just like a regular scorecard. You can also format that metric visual to have a look and feel of the rest of the report. I will say, paying attention with this metric visual, it does not interact with your other visuals. So if you have other things on the page and you're moving it around, that is not going to adjust things. So when you go in to add the metric, and it's this little kind of trophy icon, and once you click on that trophy icon, you will then have this window pop up and you can choose whether you want to add a metric as a visual or metrics as a list. You can choose either one of those options depending on what you want to do. You will then put in the name. So this one has selected that first singular option. You can put that current value in and find a target. And this, again, you are picking either just manually entering these data points yourself, or you are connecting in to your data for that. Once you add that into your report, then you can do check-ins and keep adding different data points across that. And we're going to demo this out in Power BI in a few seconds. Staying on the metric theme, you can now follow metrics from your mobile app. So if you have the mobile app on your phone, you are now able to also track that through the app. So to start following a metric, just tap that more option, that 3-dot button. That's always you're going to see everywhere. Tap that is on that metric card in the metrics hub or in the metrics detail pane, and then you're going to choose follow metric. So to view all the metrics that you're following, you would just select following and you would have a display list accessible from the metrics hub. So if you're using metrics, it's a big thing that they've been pushing, a newer feature. So if that is something that you're utilizing, paying attention to, you would be able to also do this in mobile. If you haven't checked it out yet, definitely take some time to. I think based on the amount of effort and time they're pushing out for this, we'll see a lot more metric changes and updates coming in the next few months. Finally, we have a lot of connector updates for all different places all over the place. We have a MariaDB connector update. There is a Google Sheets connector update. And then there's 80 additional data sources, which are all certified connectors, now available in Power Query Online to use in Power BI data flows and data marts, which is what we're looking at right here. This just means that Power BI data flows and data marts creators have the option to connect into a lot more data sources in Power Query Online experience, similar to what you get in the desktop. So a lot of connector updates. Pretty much every update we will see some connector updates, but there's a lot in this one. So definitely check out the full list. I will have that linked below the blog, which from Power BI, which has all of the changes and all the additional ones that I didn't have time to go into today. So definitely check that out. But now let's get into Power BI, look at a few things and play around with it and see how they work. All right, first up, let's look at data labels. So look at some of the conditional change updates that have been added in. So let's go over into format. I have my visual selected. We're gonna go into formatting. And right here under your paint brush, we are gonna scroll right on down to the data label section and open that on up. So you can see if we turn that off, here's what that looks like. Turn it right back on and we have data labels, these points at each point in our data. And so as we go through, we'll just kind of go down, look at all the changes we can make for these. First off, I can apply these settings to both of these or just a singular series. So I have target profit and last year's profit in here, and so if I want to have it just on one, I could do that. Let's leave it set for all. I can decide its position, which is either auto, or set it all above, or all underneath. So if you go to auto, some of those are just going to adjust just based on where the lines, the other data points are at, just to kind of readjust. But if you don't want them kind of doing their own thing, you definitely can decide if you want them just all up or all down. Next up, if we look into the values section, here is where we are able to set our font type as well as the size. If I want to make these a little bit larger, I could do that. If I want them to be bolded, make it easier to read those. And then here's our color section. So getting into that colors, I can choose these. So if I don't want to have it set to a bright red and green, maybe I want it to be a little bit different. Choose that pink for the minimum and this teal for the higher value. Set that to OK. And you can see how they adjust. And this gray is kind of my middle mixing point. Of course, you can get rid of this, start over again with these. And I can decide my display unit. So auto, none, thousands, millions, billions, trillions, just based on what data you have pulling in. And then next section up is the background. So I personally like to have the background on. I think it makes it a little bit easier to just kind of isolate each of these data labels, make it easier to read those. Inside of here, you can set your background color and of course your transparency. Remember, 100% is clear. You've got nothing there. Move it on to 0, and that's kind of your full color visible option there. And so you can decide where that is at, dependent on the colors you have chosen for your conditional formatting. You know, play around with your background color, really make sure that at each point, whether it's all the way at the bottom, all the way at the top, you'd be able to see all of those colors really clearly. And then you can definitely play around with this and kind of see, let's say if I only want this on one of the settings, and then definitely play around with it, see what you like best. Like if I want to go back up and just have these set for my target profit, make sure that you can choose this on or off right here where you're editing just the target profit line. So target profit is my teal line right here, so I can decide if I want the data labels on or off for that. Maybe I want for target profit, maybe I want my options to, or my colors rather, to be a little bit different. So I can get into this conditional formatting and change my colors. Maybe I want to have it to be all from this dark teal. Let's go a lighter blue and then have that darker teal for my lowest and highest values for just target profit. As you can see that adjusts, we've got that light blue and then we have the dark blue, while the other line is still the different color. And so you're able to set these really for each one. And let's go over and we can modify last year's profit. So this is great that you're really able to set an individual line or set everything going on all at the same time. So you really got some good options here. Again, we can modify our colors over here, have a fully different color experience if we want to. Let's say this is going to be, let's do yellow and orange for this one. So you can see we've got two different metrics, different colors. So really you have lots of options when it comes to setting your conditional formatting on your data labels. Next up, let's look at the metric visual. So this metric visual, this is coming right from this nice little award trophy icon. A few notes on this: you do need to be signed in to have access to this, and you need to have at least a pro license for this as well. So since the visual requires you to be signed in, it isn't supported in platform as a service or anonymous report embed. Like I said earlier, the visual doesn't support cross-filtering or highlighting. Also, you can't connect metrics to the current report until you publish the report to the Power BI service. So if you're trying to have it connected to the data in the report, you would need to publish the report out first. Once it's published out, you would be able to have access to the data inside of that to set that up as your metrics. So I can see I already have one set up in here. And if I can go into the notes at the bottom there, in this section I can see the details for this. I can go into the activity, so the check-ins for that. I can look at the history as well as the time period changes. So got some options inside of this. I'd also see all of my metrics if I had additional ones in here. So let's add one in, walk through the process so we can see how that goes. So we'll click on this trophy icon right here for metrics. And again, if you do not see this, you will need to go up to File, Options and Settings, Options, to get into your preview features. And then right here, your metrics visual, you'll want to enable that and add that in. Again, reminder, if you add anything in from your preview features, as soon as you hit OK, you'll be prompted to restart Power BI. So save your file, close it out, reopen it, and you will have that in there good to go. All right, so with this metric visual, we can see we don't have anything in our visualization pane. So we're not dragging any fields over, any of these columns over. Instead, we want to click on this yellow Add Metrics button. On this screen, we're going to decide whether we want to add a metric as a visual or add metrics as a list. We have two options. You can choose your own adventure right from here, which way you want to go with. Let's go with add a metric as a visual. And then I can either browse metrics or create new. Let's create a new one. And here we will name our metric. So whatever you are tracking, you would be putting in here. Let's say this one is going to be double yearly profits. Whatever you're tracking, make sure it has a good name. Then you can either manually enter a value or connect to your data. Once you hit connect to data, it's going to show you all the reports you have in this service. Again, for this data set, I would need to publish this report out first to get access to that. So just keep that in mind if you're trying to set up the metrics. Got to publish it out first to get access to it, and then you can kind of add these in. You can manually enter a value. Let's say our current value is, we want to double our yearly profits. Let's say our yearly profits are $1 million. You can see also it gives us a nice little indicator up here of what amount we have, because I always will lose some decimal places there. So we've got $1 million as our current value, and let's say our target is $2 million. We can pick our start date. So if you're kind of retroactively filling this in, you would be able to adjust this. And let's say we're like, all right, we technically started this, but we haven't been tracking it, but we started this January 1st and our due date is December 31st. I could go in, adjust those days. You can add additional owner names in and change our status. So with this, you have not started, on track, at risk, behind, overdue, or completed. Let's just say we are on track for this one, and we can add this to our report. So this is how it's going to first come out, especially when you've just started and you haven't connected into any data. It's just going to kind of have today's date as well as the data in there for whatever we've set it to. I can modify this, especially if I want to kind of retroactively do this and show what has been happening all year long. So I can go back into my notes, and now I can see that this check-in was for August 11th, where my value was $1 million. And we kind of want to modify that because this isn't going to be kind of the actual date that we have in here. So let's just add some more date points in for our data. And so again, we're going to double our yearly profits for this. So let's just say our first check-in is going to be on January 1st. And we had 0. We're starting from scratch. Starting our calendar at 0 on the 1st. So we can hit save on there. And then I can also get rid of this check-in that I had today when I kind of created that. So I can delete that check-in point. Then let's say our first quarter, let's change that date to April 1st. On April 1st, we hit 500,000. Should I have the right amount of zeros in here? And we can say we are on track, so we can hit save for that. You can see how our path is changing, growing. Say our next entry is going to be on July 1st. So let's say that on July 1st. We've fallen a bit behind, so we can say that instead of hitting $1 million, which would be our target, we can say that instead we're like a little bit behind. So we only hit 900,000. So I can change from on track to a bit at risk here and save. So you can see kind of how our path is changing and adjusting. And again, if we are pulling in data, a lot of this would be done automatically, but if you don't have access to the data set and you just want to manually adjust it, you have the ability to go through and really modify and enter in the data from whatever point in time, especially retroactively, to add these all in and change things up. I can also modify, edit, or delete any notes that I've already put in for this visual. So back to my report, I can see how that's going. I can see if I click on this visual, nothing is happening to my other metric visuals. These are each individual. Nothing is going to filter these down or kind of change them or modify them. So I also have my little notes at the bottom of when they are due and their status. I can see I'm signed in, so I have my kind of notes ownership in the top. and you'll be able to track these in. I can add as many as I want onto those pages, but definitely remember, if you want to use the data from the report that you're putting these in, you do need to publish that out first to have access to that data set. Definitely think we're gonna see a lot more related to metrics in the coming months. So definitely play around with it, spend some time adding that in, both doing some manual entries, connecting to the data sets to see the changes, differences, and all that good stuff for each of them. All right, thank you all so much for joining me in another monthly update to Power BI. So to learn more, as well as see all of the other awesome features that were added this month, I will link the Microsoft blog below with all of those details. So I showed you what are my favorites this month. Let me know in the comments which features you are most excited about. Also, don't forget, please like this video and also click subscribe to make sure you do not miss a video when we release them. We have videos all across our channel, all on different things on the Power platform, mainly. Of course, lots of other Microsoft products as well. So I will see you in a few weeks when we're going to talk about the September 2022 release.